There are two other very important trig ratios, and one is called the sine of an angle, and the other is called the cosine. And if we wanted to talk about the sine of an angle, that is defined as the opposite leg over the hypotenuse. And the cosine of an angle is defined as the ratio of the adjacent leg to the hypotenuse. So notice that both sine and cosine have hypotenuse in the denominator. And here's how you would use sine and cosine. You could have any right triangle. Let's say that this is, let's call it triangle QRS. And maybe this is going to be a 3 and 5, and again, hypotenuse is not going to be 4 because that has to be longest. I know 25 plus 9, so this is going to be the square. So you have a 35-degree angle, and the leg opposite the 35-degree angle we're going to call x, the hypotenuse we're going to call 12. And if we are sitting right at this angle, notice the parts we have. We have the opposite leg and the hypotenuse. Opposite leg and the hypotenuse is sine. So I'm going to write down the sine of 35 degrees is the opposite over the hypotenuse. I want to solve this for x, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 12. So this becomes 12 times the sine of 35 degrees is x. The sine of 35 degrees I can look up on my calculator. And that happens to be 0.5736. So that when I multiply that by 12, that's going to give me x is equal to 6.883. If I wanted to find the adjacent side, let's suppose the adjacent leg, suppose that was y, I have a choice now. I can either use Pythagorean theorem or I can use cosine, and I'm going to demonstrate each. If I'm going to try to use cosine, I could say, okay, cosine of 35 is the adjacent leg over the hypotenuse, multiply both sides by 12. Multiply both sides by 12. I can't fit that in. So there's a 12 there. So y becomes 12 times the cosine of 35 degrees. And I'm just going to look at my calculator for that. That gives us y is equal to 9.8298. Or the other thing I could do is I could take x squared, so 6.883, plus y squared is the hypotenuse squared. And I am just going to solve that equation with my calculator. I'm going to take 144 minus 6.883 squared is going to give me y squared. So y squared is 96.624. I'm just going to take the square root of that thing, and that gives me y is 9.8298, which is exactly what I had gotten before.